Okay, Moodle 1.9 users, let's talk about the differences in 1.9 editing and Moodle 2.0 and up editing. First things first, you're going to start with the same first step, turn editing on, and you'll find a button to turn editing on still placed in the upper right-hand corner. When you turn your editing on, you get a new set of icons next to each of the activities in your course page. Take a look. The update icon is still the same next to each topic section and next to each of your activities. The first icon remains the same, reordering your activities in Moodle by moving them up and down. My arrow looks like a crosshairs. That's because I have turned on my AJAX and JavaScript editing. If yours looks like a small up-down arrow with half of the arrow going up and half of it going down, you don't have on your advanced web features and it may be slowing you down. Let's take just a second to show you how you get this set of crosshairs. First, visit your user profile. Then, click Edit Profile in the Settings area under My Profile Settings. Look through your settings for the AJAX and JavaScript item. If it's set to No, use basic web features, change that to Yes, use advanced web features. Save your profile and return to your course page. Now, when your editing's turned on, you'll have a crosshairs where you used to have to move items step by step. Other icons you'll recognize include Indent, which moves your item over, Update, which allows you to change the settings, Delete, Hide, or make the item invisible to your students, Groups, and assigning roles in an individual activity. A new item you won't recognize is the ×2 icon, which means we want to duplicate this activity. Before, if you had to duplicate an item, you needed to either rebuild it from scratch by copying and pasting in the information from the activity you want to duplicate, or you could back up your entire course, including just the modules you want to copy, and then restore it again. This duplicate icon speeds up that process. Ta-da! All done. Let's keep going. The icons next to your activities may have changed a bit, and the icons in the navigation blocks have done so as well. First of all, you still have a set of icons under each block that allows you to modify that block, the settings for that block, the roles in that block, and to reorder said block. On the top right-hand side of each block, you still have the ability to collapse and expand a block, but you also now have the ability to dock that block. This is the small gray icon that looks like two columns. When you click that icon, the block seems to disappear. However, what you've done is parked the block on the left-hand side in an area now known as the dock. The Add a Resource and Add an Activity menus have not changed in their label until you drop them down. Take a look. What used to be Insert a Label, Compose a Web Page, Compose a Text Page, or Link to a File or Website have all been renamed. Files used to be Link to a File or Website. Now it's its own separate item. Folder used to be called a Directory. IMS Content Package is the same. Insert a Label is now just Label. Compose a Web Page is now Page. And Link to a File or Website is now just URL, separated out as its own item. In the Add an Activity menu, most things are named exactly the same. Another key difference while you're editing is going to be your WYSIWYG editor, or the HTML area where you're editing text. Let's take a look in the news forum at the description area. Look different? This is the new TinyMCE HTML editor. See my other tutorial for details on these new buttons. Another change you'll notice is that when you're inside an activity, you used to have a button at the top right-hand side that said, update this activity, update this forum, update this resource. It was an update button that was a shortcut to the settings for this particular activity. Now, you'll find that item in the settings block. Wherever you are in Moodle, the settings block changes to apply to the context you're in. So if you're editing the news forum, or even if you're sitting in the news forum like I am, your settings block reflects settings for the news forum. The settings area inside an activity doesn't just give you the settings page you're used to. It also now gives you the ability to associate certain things with just this activity. Locally assigned roles was always an option in 1.9. You could say that one particular user was going to be a student in this one particular activity, but not in the other activities in your course. Or you could have one user be the teacher or the moderator of a specific activity. That used to be found when you were editing the settings for that activity in a tab across the top. You'll now find it under Settings, Locally Assigned Roles. Another tab that used to be across the top when working on the settings for an activity is to assign local permissions or to override local permissions. Now that's in your settings block and allows you to fine-tune the permissions for this specific activity. The filters in an activity apply to the content. An example of a filter would be the way that media is displayed, or the fact that a glossary entry is automatically linked inside your activity. There are cases when you don't want these filters to be applied everywhere in your course. One example might be a quiz, where you don't want a term defined by a glossary entry somewhere else in your course. In your quiz, you could turn off the filter to automatically link glossary entries. One more key difference you should be aware of is the way that help is displayed in Moodle. Before, the built-in help icons were a bit cumbersome to use because they popped up in a new window. Now, in Moodle 2.0, the built-in help really is built in. Personally, I hope this makes people more apt to use this built-in help as they're editing in their course. It's invaluable. Those are the differences in editing from 1.9 to 2.0. Happy Moodling!